Hey, what's up YouTube? See that back to disassemble a Verizon iPhone 4. You can see that the screen is shattered, and we'll be replacing the screen on this phone with a OEM version that I purchased off of eBay. You can actually get them for pretty cheap, like 25 bucks, not a bad deal if you have a shattered iPhone. There's a few tools that you're going to need to complete this. The first being a star wrench or tip, a screwdriver, a small Phillips screwdriver, and either a really flat-tipped Phillips or a flat screwdriver. I also like to use a dental pick to pry up some of the smaller wires and connectors, and an actual plastic pry tool as well. It's good to help pry up. And an iSesamo opening tool. Since this screen is glued down, we can use it to help pry it off. Let's go ahead and get started on this disassembly. We're going to undo the two screws at the bottom, connecting the back cover to the iPhone. We'll go ahead and start that. Left and right of the charging port is where they are located. There's one down, just one more to go to release this back cover for us. Alright, second screw is out. We're just going to push up towards the camera on the back cover. It'll slide up, and you can go ahead and pull it off. And that'll reveal the inner workings of the iPhone 4. Now, the first thing that we want to do is go ahead and remove the battery. To do that, we will need to undo this screw right here. Go ahead and take that out. Now what you want to do to pry this up is to use a pry tool. This pull tab that is inserted on these phones is really weak, and I don't suggest using it. You usually just rip it right off. Use a pry tool underneath it to kind of pull it up. We'll undo the connector here real quick, connecting the battery to the iPhone. Whenever you're undoing these connectors, be very gentle. Give a little firm but nice and even pressure, it'll pop right up. The battery is glued down, so you want to kind of work your pry tool around on the battery. Push in. Once you kind of get the battery started to lift up a little bit, you can use the pull tab to help pull it out, and give it some nice snug pushes there, and it will pop right out for you. Make sure you do not puncture the battery, so you make sure that you're using something that's nice and flat and not pointed. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is remove the shield housing the top portion of the logic board. I did undo 5 screws. These 5 that are connected just right here, minus the one that's from the brass. Don't undo that one just yet. Now these screws are different sizes. 4 will be smaller, and the one that's connected to in the right in this particular picture is a little bit larger. So as you disassemble the iPhone, make sure that you keep track of where these screws go. A lot of them are not the same, and they will not go back in universally. Alright, now that we have all 5 screws out, we're going to go ahead and use our pry tool to pry up this shield. Be nice and gentle. There's kind of a hook portion at the top where it connects to the kind of the base of the logic board. Once you get it free, you can pull it out. We're going to undo the camera next. We'll just flip this little connector up, and it does have a longer portion that hangs underneath the ribbon cable, so pull it out to the right of the phone there. The next thing we're going to undo is the shield that connects this ribbon cable. There are 2 Phillips screws here. We'll go ahead and undo both of those. Both screws are out. We'll go ahead and remove the cover. I'm going to go ahead and pry this up using our plastic pry tool. Again, be nice and gentle. This does have a lot of adhesive on it. Sometimes it'll be sticking down to the board there. So make sure you pry it up nice and slow. The next thing we're going to undo is there's a little brass connector here with a small Phillips screw that hides an antenna. We're going to go ahead and unscrew this. Take the screw out and take the brass connector off. Make sure you understand where all these brass connectors go. They will need to go back in the exact same spot. There are 3 on this phone, and they are not the same. I like to use a dental pick right here to get into this nice tight space and pry this Wi-Fi antenna up. Make sure that you are very gentle. These can deform easily. We're going to undo the grounding connector here at the top, which is one of the other brass connectors. Use a dental pick to get in here as well. This does have a portion that slides down grounding the phone, so you want to make sure that you pull out the side that's pushed in deeper first. You can see it right here. We're going to start undoing some of the connectors here. We're going to pry up this top one first. It is glued. I can do it so I get a better access to one of the screws to take the screen off. Undo this connector here, just part of the screen. Undo both of these two connectors, and then you can release the LCD connections. One's a little bit stiffer than the other. There are three connectors here we're going to remove. Now here at the top where the camera was kind of at, there's a little black piece of tape which actually hides a screw. If you pry back the tape a little bit, and I like to use a pair of tweezers to help pry this tape up so I can reuse it. This is your third brass connector that is underneath this screw. This is the last screw that we're going to need to remove to take out the logic board, minus the three standoff screws we'll have to undo here in just a second. Alright, it's kind of a grounding clip for the camera, so make sure you understand how it came out as well. The grounding points do fit right back into the logic board there. One last screw at the bottom, I'm sorry, that I missed, right next to the vibrator component there. We're going to undo these three screws next. Now they do require either a flat blade screwdriver or a very flat tipped Phillips. I'm going to use a flat blade here. We're going to unscrew these three screws. Now the two bottom ones, the one that I just took out and the next one, are actually shorter than the one that's at the top. So you need to make sure, again, when you're taking these screws out, you understand what part of the phone they came from, as there are a lot of different size screws in your iPhone. This last one right here at the top will be the last screw we need to take out before we can remove the logic board. There is one last connector here that I missed. We're going to go ahead and pry that up. And now our logic board should be nice and free. Be gentle as you're removing it from the ribbon cables, and just go ahead and set it aside. Next thing we're going to do is two Phillips screws down here at the bottom to take off the speaker assembly. This one that I'm taking out right now actually has a little black piece of plastic attached to it, so make sure that that comes off with your screw. Now the speaker port does have about 4 prongs that kind of ground it to the mid frame. So when you pull this out, make sure that you remove it, kind of pulling back towards the bottom of the phone and then pulling up on the edge. Alright, we've made a big dent in this disassembly. The next thing that we are going to take a look at are the screws we need to remove for the LCD. There are 4 small screws in each corner and 3 along the sides. So the 3 along the sides and 4 screws in the corners. The 4 screws in the corners are smaller than the 3 that connected, or the 6 that connected to the sides. I like to undo the corner screws first so I can keep track of where they go. There is a small piece of tape that covers up this top screw up here. Make sure you don't miss it when you try to move the screen out. Now, I don't like to pull the piece of tape out completely. I just like to use a pair of tweezers to kind of pull it down so I can get access to it. And then I can put it back up the way it was to kind of keep the camera from touching that screw. Alright, these are all Phillips screws, so just use your small tip Phillips screwdriver to go ahead and pull these 4 screws out. So I do the 4 corners first to make sure that I can keep track of the screws. This one can be a little bit tricky if you have a thicker screwdriver like myself. I like to kind of leave this one for last, so we'll give it just another second. We'll do these remaining 2 down here. And this here is our 3rd corner screw. Now make sure you don't strip this one out if you're using a bigger screwdriver. If you're using one of the smaller ones that came with the kit, normally it's not too big of a deal to kind of get it in there, you get a better angle at it. There we go. The next thing that we're going to do is remove the 6 screws, the 3 on this side that hold the LCD in. Now all of these screws do have a washer that comes with it, so make sure that you have 6 screws and 6 washers as you remove this phone. You can see that there's a very small washer and the screw. Make sure that you do not lose those washers or else your screen will not tighten down very well. Alright, here's our 2nd screw on this side. And there is a vibrator, the vibrating portion of the phone. If you pry up near the screw mount, give a nice leverage. It is pretty well taped down to the phone. So just get a nice pry tool under there, give it a nice even amount of force to pull it up. And then we'll take out our 3rd screw on this side of the phone. Three more to go. And here is our last LCD screw. Now that that is out, washer got stuck to the adhesive down there. Now that all these screws are out, we're going to go ahead and pry the LCD away from the mid-frame of the phone. I like to use an iSesamo tool. You can just use a plastic pry tool. This tool makes it a little bit easier. You can get nice leverage in from the side of the phone here and slide your tool down. And you can stick it a little bit further in right here to start pulling up some of the glue. This is where a lot of the glue is at on this phone. Make sure you're very careful of your home button. You're supposed to be to the left of it. There's a ribbon cable here that you do not want to damage, or you have to replace your home button as well. After you make a round, you can see that it's starting to pry up for us. I have to pry it out a little bit, and then we'll work on the top portion. Start from the middle and work our way in. Make sure when you're putting your pry tool in that you're always putting it towards the top of the glass and not into the mid-frame of the phone. That way you can pry it off as well as not damage any of the internal components or ribbon cables of the LCD if you plan to reuse that. Now as you're prying this away, there's a kind of a fatter connector portion to this thicker ribbon cable. You want to make sure that goes through the slot of the mid-phone, and that'll make your disassembly of the LCD come off a little bit easier. Alright, pry that away. Last little bit of glue. Ribbon cable is out. And we are down to the nitty-gritty of this phone to replace the LCD. Now, I don't have to disassemble this phone completely, as the person that I'm working on only needs the LCD fixed. That is how far we're going to take it. We do make sure that you remove all of the excess pieces here. If you want to see the reassembly video, make sure you click the link at the bottom of this screen here, and that'll take you to the reassembly video. But again, thanks for watching my video. If you like it, like the video and subscribe to me. See you guys later.